In orientation video number 5, I will discuss how to clean your data prior to a data pull. Data cleaning will consist of assessing for missing or erroneous data, then completing the corrections in Qualtrics. Data cleaning should be performed on a monthly basis. We will use fake patient data from the sandbox for this demonstration. First, we will start by accessing the backend of Qualtrics. Arrange your MACS case number column from largest to smallest. Look for duplicate or skipped numbers. Keep track of where you last stopped when cleaning previously. You will notice in this example that I have 2 number 7 cases and a missing number 6. I will need to go back to my master spreadsheet to figure out if this patient was simply misnumbered, entered twice, or if a patient was omitted. Upon review of my master spreadsheet, it looks like the MACS number for Sherlock Holmes should be 6 rather than 7. I will go back into Qualtrics and retake this response, adding the correct MACS case number. You may find instances where you have duplicate patients entered or even missing patients. Enter all missing patients into Qualtrics. Duplicate patients can be deleted under the Actions tab. Next, you will need to export your data into a spreadsheet. Click on the Export and Import button in the top right corner. Select Export Data. Select CSV as your format. Then select Download. Your download will have more patients than what you see in this demo from the sandbox. It will be important to keep track of where you last cleaned as your spreadsheet grows longer. Highlight the first row with question numbers and delete this row. My row 2 contains non-data elements as well. This row can be deleted to clean up the spreadsheet. Further format the spreadsheet by elongating the first row to make it more visible. You may also hide columns A through R, as these cells contain non-data elements. Next, highlight row 1 in its entirety and go to the Data section in the top ribbon to add a filter. Formatting is now complete. This is what our spreadsheet should look like. You can save the document as an Excel workbook to your hospital's secured shared drive. Since this is not actual patient data that I'm using, I will just be saving it to my desktop. In addition to this video, we have a data cleaning document on the MTQuip MACS website under Education. Step 1 of data cleaning. If point of entry is ED only / not admitted, the case should not have an admit date. Go to the point of entry column and use your filter to show only the emergency department only / not admitted entries. Now look at the admit date column to make sure that there are no dates or times. We look to be okay here today. If you do have an admit date listed here, you'll need to go back into the patient's chart to figure out if the point of entry is wrong or if the patient's admit date is wrong. Don't forget to clear your filter before moving on to the next step. Step number 2. All cases should have an admit date except for ED only / not admitted patients. Under the admit date column, use the filter to select blanks. With the filter on, we are now seeing all patients who are not admitted. Now look to your point of entry column to make sure that these were ED only patients. It looks like we are all set here. Now, if you were to see something other than ED only in this column, you will need to go back and figure out if the patient was actually admitted or if the point of entry is incorrect. And don't forget to clear your filter again. Step 3. Check all demographic sections for missing data. Use your filter to sort for blanks. Blanks will be located at the very bottom of the filter options. If missing data is found, you will need to go back into the patient's chart to find the data. Then go back into Qualtrics to edit the case. Highlight the cell and enter the missing data on your cleaning spreadsheet in case you need to go back to reference this again later. Searching for blank cells pertains only to data columns where you input or select a data variable, rather than the columns where the data variable has been defaulted. For example, let's search to see if I have a missing address anywhere. Using the filter in the address column, select only blanks, which will be at the bottom. If you do not have any blanks in the column, the option blanks will not be available. You can see here that we did have one blank address cell in row number 9. Now I can go back into the chart for the missing data and then correct this in Qualtrics, as well as update my data cleaning spreadsheet. Once you have checked all demographic data for missing data, now you can move on to step 4. Check all consult surgeon information for blanks. Move on to any other variable that does not have a default, such as height or weight. I noticed that there was a height and weight missing on a patient, so I filled that in and updated Qualtrics. Once you get to risk factors, many of these variables besides height and weight are defaulted, so you will not have any blanks. Moving on to the disease tab, make sure that you do not have any missing primary ICD-10 codes. A healthy patient may not have a secondary ICD-10 code. Step 5 and 6, check appendix cases for appropriate data elements. In the organ system column, filter to show only appendix cases. Look in the ICD-10 and CPT code columns to make sure that coding reflects the norm for appendicitis. If you notice any discrepancies, go back into the chart, then correct any mistakes as needed within that case in Qualtrics. And don't forget to clear your filters. Steps 7 and 8. Check gallbladder cases for appropriate data elements. In the organ system column, filter to show only gallbladder cases. Look in the ICD-10 and CPT code columns to make sure that coding reflects the norm for gallbladder disease. For example, if you notice a CPT code for laparoscopic appendectomy and you know that the patient's organ system is gallbladder, you will need to go back into the chart to double check the case and correct any errors in Qualtrics. Here I've used the filter to display only gallbladder cases. Looking in the primary ICD-10 column, it looks like these are appropriate MACS qualifying gallbladder disease ICD-10 codes. Now scroll right to find the procedure CPT column. 47562 is the code for laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Looks like we are okay here as well. If you find a code for appendectomy or small bowel resection in this area, you will need to go back into the chart to clarify the correct CPT code. Step number 9, check that all surgery cases have appropriate surgery dates. Dates should not be outside the months or years that you are looking at. Make sure each surgery has a CPT code. Notice when I click on the filter tool under Operation Incision Date, all years entered into the cells in that column will appear. The current year is 2020, so I should not have a case from 2 years into the future. I can now find this patient and correct the year in Qualtrics. I can also click on the year to further sort the months of the cases. I know that all of the cases that I am currently cleaning occurred between July and September, so we are okay here. Step number 10, check all remaining dates for errors. Birth date, ED arrival and admit date, diagnostic imaging, IR procedures, sepsis antibiotic date, and ICU admit dates for the XLAB cases, occurrences, return to ED, and readmits. Errors may include birth date with the current year, months for the current year that haven't occurred yet, and years that haven't occurred yet. Step number 11, check discharge information and last follow-up dates for accuracy. Step number 12, go back one final time to your master spreadsheet. Look for cases you may have highlighted to indicate a later review was needed, such as a patient who had not been discharged at first review. Make sure that you have gone back into Qualtrics and completed each correction. Data abstractors within the collaborative will be notified of future MACS data pulls in advance to allow time for data cleaning. Thank you for your time. All questions can be directed to the MACS Program Evaluation Specialist.